Hey guys, good morning. So let's get started. Uh, Today I'm going to be talking about creating interactive and media-rich stories for the browser. So let me start by giving you a brief overview of our platform. It's called Swik, and it started with a very basic idea. We wanted you to create a great story and not have to worry about the technology. So we wanted to enable content creators to create really nice, really interactive, media-rich applications without writing a single line of code. And once you've created this application, we wanted you to be able to publish and share it with others with a single click. So this is our portal, which goes along with our platform, SwikShare.com. So you can actually go here and download the authoring tool. And you can also find Swiks which other people have created. So once you've downloaded the tool, played around with it, created something awesome, you can upload it to SwikShare, and it shows up on the website where you can share it with others, and other people can come here and comment on it. And you can even share the source code with people. So if you want people to be able to download it and play around with it, you can do that here. So let me just start by giving you a brief overview of our journey. So when the Swik platform started, it started with two components. We had an authoring tool, which was built for the Mac, and simultaneously we were building an iOS reader. So basically what a user would do, he would create a Swik in the authoring tool, and then he could play it on iOS. So once we had those two pieces in place, the next piece we wanted was the ability to do this across multiple platforms. So we started with HTML. So we wanted to do it in the browser. And that's mostly the focus of my talk today. And in the future, we also want to expand to the Android platform. So each Swik story has three very unique characteristics. So first of all, each story can be linear or non-linear. So I'll get to this in a future slide. And each story is very interactive, and it's very media rich. So there are a bunch of images, audio, video. So let's start with the first one. So this is just a brief overview of the structure of our Swik story. So each story has multiple threads. Each thread can have multiple screens, and each screen can be composed of multiple layers. So these layers are sort of the units. These are the images or the movies or the text that you want the user to see. And the user can navigate between these screens linearly, so one after the other, or he can jump from one screen to another. And this can be within a thread or across threads. So that's where we get the concept of non-linear storytelling. So to implement this, we needed something that was lightweight that we could use. We also wanted something which did not have too much templating on the view side, because we wanted all of our views were sort of defined by our models. And we also wanted something that would work well with a one-page application. Excuse me. So we chose Backbone, and again, this is good because it provides a good structure to our web app. Using just plain old JavaScript or frameworks like jQuery don't let us do that. And one more point, sorry. Another thing which was important for us, that since we had a background of iOS and macOS, all of our properties, so layer properties, screen properties, were in the form of key value pairs or dictionaries. So we wanted a framework which would help us have models which adjusted to that. So the next step is, or the next property of each Swik story is that it's very interactive. So since again this was built on iOS first, it has a bunch of rich animations and gestures which it supports. And of course we wanted all of these in the HTML reader as well. And again, these gestures can be anything like tap, pinch, double tap, and so on. And the way we implement this interactivity in our tool is by something we call behaviors. So the authoring tool, Swik Author, lets us specify sort of these interactions in terms of behaviors, and of course we've patented it. Sorry. And these behaviors provide full layer and screen level property control to the user. And they can be triggered by different things like user gestures, timers, or certain movie events happening, like a movie ends or the movie reaches a certain time point, and so on. So again, we wanted all of these, which are supported in iOS, to work the same way in our HTML reader. So we used two frameworks in HTML to implement this. For the animation part, we used a framework called GreenSock, which was really great because it performed very well under a high number of media assets, which we would typically have in each Swik. The second reason we liked it was because it would let us directly tween CSS properties, and it gave us great fine-grained control over our whole animation timeline. And another great thing was to sort of support all this interaction and behaviors, it would be great if we could not just give absolute values. We could just say, I want to move this from here to here by so many units. So GreenSock supports relative values, so that was great as well. And on the gesture side, we used a framework called Hammer, which again provides support for simple gestures like tap, long press, and so on. But it also provides complex gestures like pinch, and it also lets us define custom gestures. And another thing which we needed in our platform was the user could essentially specify interactions or behaviors in which he wanted to turn certain gestures on and off at a per layer level. So Hammer does this out of the box, so that was great for us. And coming to the third aspect, the media aspect, we wanted to support images, video, and audio. And typically Swiks have a large number of video and image files. So we needed something to support that. And we also needed to support multiplexing. So we have a lot of cases in which there are two videos playing at the same time, or there's a video playing in the foreground and there's an audio file playing in the background. So to do this, we explored a bunch of media frameworks for JavaScript, but in the end, we just went with the HTML tags, with the image, video, and audio tag, simply because the other frameworks did provide us with certain benefits, but the overhead wasn't really worth it. And this was the most lightweight solution. So, and off late, all the browsers support them very well as well. So we decided to stick to HTML tags. And now I just want to go through a few lessons that I personally learned and we learned through this process. So first, we found that we basically have layers, or the layers have the ability to be draggable. So a user can make a layer draggable. But when we first implemented it, we found that it was very laggy. So when you would drag a layer, the mouse would move to a new position, but the layer would be far behind it. So eventually we isolated the problem. We realized that reading and writing values from the DOM takes a long time. And that's what was causing that lag in our case. So we fixed the problem by reading the DOM just once to get the position of the layer. But once the layer moves, we actually use the mouse pointer's event to find how its position has changed, to find the position deltas, and then we can move the layer accordingly. So after doing this, the lag was gone. So another problem we faced was when the user was on a current screen, we wanted to cache the next screen so that when he went to the next screen, it would essentially load faster. So we started doing this by using web workers, but we found they don't really work too well across all browsers, and they don't let you access the DOM directly. So it wasn't really helpful for us. But we needed something where we could preload assets asynchronously. So eventually we settled on Preload.js, which is a great framework for doing that. And the sort of third problem we faced was one of the things you can do is for each layer, you can change the layer's image asset. So a behavior or an interaction can change the layer's image asset. So in iOS, when you do this change and you animate over it, it gives you a nice transition or a crossfade effect. Whereas in HTML or CSS, we weren't really getting that. So that change would be instantaneous. So here we didn't really find a solution, so we implemented it ourselves, where essentially we're cross-fading between two images using two IMG tags, so that one image fades out while the other one fades in, and it gives you a nice transition crossfade. And thank you all for listening to me. And I'd also like to thank the other guys in our team, Apurva and Krunal, who are here, and Jason, who couldn't be here today. And I encourage you guys to check out SwikShare.com, download our authoring tool, and create something amazing, and you can share it with the world. So again, if anybody has any questions. I'm sorry? I don't think so, because again, we're using a lot of media assets, so we knew that the performance wasn't going to be great, but we didn't take a big hit by using these frameworks. We did test for that. We didn't take a big hit by using these frameworks. Actually, right now that's something we're exploring, but right now we package them all up into one minified JS file, which just gets downloaded. So initially, you take a very small hit, but it's not a huge file. It's around 150 to 200 KB. But yeah, sorry. 150 KB. Yeah. Does that sound big or small? Yeah. Yeah, but we are exploring the require JS thing, where it would essentially pick up the things that it needs. But in our case, every Swik basically needs all of these frameworks. So we went the route of minifying everything into one file. Mm-hmm. So it's actually the OS 10 application is an authoring tool where you can create your Swik, you can create those interactions, you can create those layers, and then you just click publish, and it gets published to SwikShare.com. And then it can be viewed on SwikShare.com through either the browser or our iOS application. No, we haven't done. That's something, again, that we had thought about, but right now, we're focused on having an authoring tool and then having these readers across as many platforms as we can. And then once we have, say, the Android piece in place, we can think about maybe having a scaled down version of the authoring tool, just browser-based, HTML-based. Yep. Yeah, we could try. Yeah, but I don't know how great the Wi-Fi is here. Yeah, sure. Yeah, or you want to just try on that? You can just connect that.
You want me to try?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, because the thing is, in fact, you can do it, because I'll have to zoom in, which will make them crazy.
So Amey has to zoom in quite a bit when he
Right.
works.
Yeah, I
so
don't have the
usually
best
them-
eyesight in the world. So.
Let's see.
I think it's right here.
Oh. Okay, so this is hopefully going to connect up. So, we used this originally last year to build an app called La Luna, the story project for Disney Pixar. And that was where this kind of journey started for us. So that was originally built with iOS, and it was featured in the App Store and all that. But then we really wanted to open it up and try to bring it to the web, which we feel has a lot more accessibility. So this is the author. I guess it's kind of working for the most part, or
yeah.
Nope, it's gone.
Actually, can you check the
Is it?
settings of your
Okay. It was there for a second, right? I thought. Okay.
No, I don't think it ever showed up.
So should I go to screen, desktop? Let's see what you have.
Display. Arrangement.
Go. So mirror is on. You want me to have it on or not?
Yeah. So I can just try it around.
Sorry, we're trying to get this. Okay. Ah, there we go. Yay! Okay. All right. Sorry about that. Let's see. I can't see the top of my screen. Okay. Let's try. Okay, so this is basically the authoring tool, and as I mentioned before, it's OS 10 based. So this is kind of the outliner where we structure the story. That's a sort of a WYSIWYG screen, and this is sort of a property editor. So if I basically just start up a screen, let's say, and let's make it landscape. So the only absolute units in the author is actually the screen size. Everything else from there is relative. But let's just put a background. Let's say we just put some kind of background color here. So at this point, we can start adding layers. So if I just make a layer, the layers can be images, movies, or text. So we pretty much use layers interchangeably that way. Like, so a movie and an image layer, pretty much you can work on it in the same way. But like if I make an image layer here, and you can then bring in, so part of the reason why we made this a native app is just because a lot of what you're working with is large media files, and we didn't want you to have to ship that all into the cloud. So we just want to keep that local. Then when you've finished actually structuring your Swik, you just kind of ship it off at that point, and we just felt that was again, this is really built for people who do a lot of media authoring, right? So it's not built for casual users. It's built for people who actually want to build sort of highly interactive apps. Yeah. So right now we're not doing that. So we are giving you some recommendations on how you should encode the movies, or and obviously you should keep your file sizes sort of relevant to whatever your screen sizes are. But that is, so we do have a cloud backend, which is actually doing, the one thing it's doing right now is movie transcoding. So because you can't possibly have every single type of movie format that we want to target. So that's like, so we have the hook in the backend to do media massaging, but right now we're only doing it for movie transcodes. So at this point, if I basically want to preview it, I can just preview it locally, and basically I get what my thing's going to look like. Now, at this point, I can start to add behaviors, and I'll just show you something really quick. But again, as Amey said, please go ahead and download the author. We're still very much in beta, so things are kind of shaky, but we'd love to let people start playing with it. But if I wanted to make a behavior here, I can basically, and this is really the fun part. This is where it starts to get interactive. Is I have a default state, and let's just say I'll leave it default, and then I can make another state. So the interesting thing here is that, so let's call this state 1, is we are basically using essentially state, like a finite state machine, similar to what games use, except that you have to kind of program them. what we've done is taken that whole concept and made it completely visual. So if you go to state 1 here, and you say, okay, I'm going to unlock the width and the height of my, of my image here, I can, let's say, make it bigger, and essentially switch between these states. And the states are visual, so I'm going to just unlock this one here as well. And then you can connect these up. So if I add a trigger, I can say, okay, and you can use different kinds of gesture triggers, you can use timers, whatever you want. So I can actually say, okay, let's tap to make this image bigger. So basically, if I'm in default state and I tap, I'm going to go into state 1, and that's going to give me that, right? And then if I'm in state 1, I can basically add another trigger in here, let's say a timer or something like that, which will take me back to default after 4 seconds or whatever I want, Now, one of the things that Amey was talking about was the twinning or the animation stuff here. So actually, what you can do is that in these state changes, I can pretty much transition rather than abruptly. I can actually add an animation here. So I can say do a 1-second animation, and we can make it ease in, ease out, or whatever we want. So at this point, let me just do one thing. So we can basically preview that. So you can see that it's essentially, and this is, obviously, again, the iOS reader is a lot more mature. So one of the things, we also have an iOS app version of this, so you can kind of compare between the two. Yeah? Right. So basically, it's what it essentially writes out is a JSON definition of your behaviors, and then there is a reader, which is JavaScript, that essentially then interprets that. No, it downloads it on the fly. So and that's the 150K minimized JS, basically, right? Yeah. So no plugins. Yeah, there's no plugins. The iOS app, you have to obviously download it from the App Store or whatever. But so anyway, this is a very, very quick demo just to give you sort of a feel for what it does. So, this is the site. This may be very slow. I don't know how the connection is, but. And then part of what we're trying to really do with this is to build a community. So we want people to play with this and then try it and then post their Swiks and mash them up. So yeah, so this is super, super slow. But we are relying on modern browsers and decent connectivity. And these are just some of the different ways that you can kind of use it. But so here, this is sort of an embedded Swik here. So if I basically, I'm essentially creating animations based on click events here. So it's a fairly simple Swik, but it kind of shows you the kind of things you can do. So this is all just straight up, it's running HTML5 in the browser, and all of this is just essentially authored using the author. So, all right, I'll let Amey kind of hopefully take over again, so you can take it off whenever you're ready.
Anybody have more questions? Nope. Okay. Okay, cool. Thank you very much, guys.